Y'all can hear me. That's better now that you can actually hear me. One second. I almost missed this stream. I was getting comfy. It's funny that the internet is dragging with nobody on the bitch but me. Funny as hell. He said, there it is. What's up, Chocolate Witch? Merry Christmas to the lips. I want y'all to know I went out and found the biggest fucking mug I could today. This is a big ass mug. See how big that shit is? I got a measuring tape. This is a big fucking mug. And I use it to make tea. It's for hot chocolate and some other shit. But, yeah. So, how y'all doing? If you're curious about the title of the stream, I had an idea. I had an idea when I did it of it being an exploration, in a sense, of why people around this time commit self-deletion. But I also realized that I set it at 8 o'clock because I had some running around to do. I know AM was going to be live about 8, and Nooster was live right now too. So, not expecting a big audience. That's fine. Might not know where this goes, but it's an experiment in a sense. So the idea was I was having a conversation with my daughter who is coming to town for Christmas. Now, her flight got delayed and she wasn't able to get here as soon as she wanted to. And the first thing that she's texted me about is about how she's not going to have enough time to see everybody now because now she has to fit in all her stop off to see folks in 2 days when some people she hasn't seen in years, right? And for me, I already know where this conversation is going. The conversation is going to where dad is going to be bumped down on the list and get short time with his child while everybody else who didn't give birth to her at all, or raise her, is going to get premium time with her. And that bothers me. But because my daughter was kind of stressing about her flight and stuff like that, I told her, don't stress and look, don't worry about me. I'm not doing Christmas this year anyway. I didn't buy no gifts. Do what you need to. But if I don't see you, I won't be disappointed. Which is kind of a lie. It's kind of a lie. Um, it's a lie of admission because my daughter knows me. She knows I'll be disappointed if I don't see her. But she also knows that I don't like the second fiddle to anybody bullshit. Not if I'm your parent. Not if you came from my ball sack. I shouldn't be second to nobody. Only person I will kind of tolerate being second to is her mother. In terms of I'm coming down, these are the two people I need to see when I come down here. Fuck everybody else. I don't care. I really don't care about everybody else. And I shouldn't, because they don't give a fuck about me either. So we all good in the hood. But where it gets to me, it's prioritizing. And what made me think of doing this stream was getting off the conversation with her and thinking about this, the kind of shit that make dudes self-delete this time of year. This is the kind of shit. And I thought it would be an interesting stream to go through those things that make guys self. I've been there before. I've been there. I understand how sad and lonely you can feel at times when you have all these things and people around you that should be close to you, but they're not. I've had my bouts with depression and insomnia and all kind of shit, right? Because that's just who I am. But I was talking to a lady friend recently, and she was saying how guys hold it all in. And I told her, you know why guys hold it all in? It's because nobody gives a shit. I said, no woman wants to listen to some dude crying about this shit. Why? They don't want to hear that shit. It don't make their pussy wet. They're not interested. Because as soon as the dude starts breaking down all this shit, the first thing people are going to say is, oh, you need to man up. Suck it up and don't say shit. So guys don't. They already know nobody cares. They ain't trying to make you care. You don't. It's just the fuck it is. It's not sweet enough. So I thought that would be an interesting topic for a stream. But what things that lead dudes to doing it, because this year we've seen a couple of surprising self-deletions from people who had families, wives, careers, all kind of useful shit. Actually was putting something out into the world that was of benefit, but one day after this whole year they decided it was time to go by their own hand, mind you. And I thought it would be interesting to go into what would make a dude do some of that kind of shit. And it made me think of it. First one being on the list in no particular order is prioritizing in life. Not being prioritized as a man. What up, Beasley? Not being prioritized as a man in the lives of loved ones and your children is very hurtful to men. It's very hurtful. And I can tell you why, since this is the one that sparked this whole thing. Any one of us on this planet only came into being because of two people. Two people only. One person threw the pitch. The other one caught it and held it. Now, when you are born, there is a connection to those two people. Should be, at the very least, right? But what happens is, especially if you're in a situation to where there is a divorce or you split, whatever your family situation is, at times it happens to where one goes one way, one goes the other way. And now there's children right in the middle. What usually happens, at least in this community, at least with black fathers, because this has been my experience and I've seen it with some other folks, right? That being split is the reason for people to marginalize you and push you out. That is hurtful to men. Why? Well, um, I know it's not conventional wisdom, but men actually care about their kids. We do. We actually love them a lot. We love them more than we love ourselves sometimes. You're a real father. You usually do. Because those are the only people on the planet that you would give up your life for easily. And why? You would give up your life to protect them. What up, D Remedy? We got the cure now. You would give up your life readily to protect them. You would give up your life to make sure they were okay. Dudes would give up their life just to make sure that they're all right in the moment. Like for insurance money and shit. Men always will sacrifice for their kids. Boys, girls, it don't fucking matter. They always will. Even if they ain't about shitting in prison. They'll sacrifice for them. If you don't think so. I was just watching the Iceberg Slim documentary on Amazon Prime last night. And one of the things his daughter knew absolutely, when he put out that first book, Pimp, he didn't do that shit because he was trying to get rich. He did that shit because he was trying to take care of his family and provide for them. Because he squared up and he had these kids, girls, and he was trying to make sure they were okay. Not in almost any different way he was doing when he was a pimp. Not really, to me. But that's what he did. And it actually became really lucrative for him and them. But given his background and who he was, you would think he didn't give a fuck about women at all. He didn't love no hoes, right? And why was he doing all of this for his wife and his 3 daughters? Because they wasn't hoes. What up, famous David? Famous Davos. That's why. So, to care so much for your children and for the children to get older or whatever, what ends up happening? What up, no one? What ends up happening or can happen is that you get pushed to sideline, especially when they're older. And all the women want to crowd that space. They want to crowd that space of having the child's attention and time and having the child show up to where they are because they garner some kind of life from what the child has accomplished, even if they were against the child doing it the whole time. And you put the child on the path to do it. That don't matter. It's all about the child being there and them getting this smile and cheese and ha and kiki. It's all about that. And what happens is they make the child make choices on your dad or auntie, or your dad or grandmother, or your dad and mom, or you got to be here for so-and-so's thing because this, that, and the third. And all of that stuff serves to just push the man further and further out because they believe the male is not important anymore because you've already given up your sperm, right? You have no use anymore. It's all about what they want to do with this thing. And I say thing intentionally because that's how they treat the person, the child. They treat it like it's a thing. It's an accessory that should be showing up with them. And they can have no good time if they're not there with their accessory. Because their accessory gloms attention onto them. The better the accessory does, the more attention they can garner for themselves. So in that sense, to females, fuck your daddy. Daddy only gave up semen to make you. That's not anything. We actually care. We love you. Daddy do too. So to make things easier on my daughter and not have to have this conversation with her again this year, I just told her to do what she do. Do what you need to. Because in my mind, I would treat it just like she never came back. That's how I would just have to think about it. I would just have to think about it like she never came back. And to have to be a father who misses their child, mind you, I ain't seen her in a whole year either. To have to do that, that's the kind of thing that make dudes want to crack. That's the kind of shit that makes guys think, well, shit, I don't matter here at all. Because this is what I'm getting from these people. Where I should be revered or respected or prioritized in that sense because I'm the father of this child. I'm not prioritized. I'm sidelined. I get to get the leftovers of time and not the premium amount of time. That's bullshit. That's something that can make a man break. Because guys love their kids. They do. Why wouldn't they? They spend a lot of time teaching their children, working with them. You name me anybody who works with this on the same job, doing the same thing for say 18 and 20 years, and ask me if they don't care about it. They care. You can't spend that much time with doing one thing and not care. It's impossible to me. Prove me wrong if you want. But it seems basically impossible to me. Why is this shit gonna make me start yawning now? I need some alcohol. I'll tell y'all, it's the start of a 3-day weekend. I got my snacks. I got my food in here. It's quiet. I ain't got to work in the morning. I'm about to get fucked up this weekend. About to pour that rum chata, that peppermint bark rum chata, and drink that shit down. And get to feeling good about myself. Anyway, so kids is one. Kids is one. And that's a big one because that gets to pulling on your heartstrings a lot. Every one of those little times that a child, your child, decides to put you aside to go do something else with some other folks that ain't did shit for them, that's hurtful. It's hurtful. It could be considered disrespectful if you wanted to take it that far, but it would validate. It would. A friend I was talking to, she was like, shit, she'd be crushed if her son, came back and didn't have time to see her. She'd be crushed. And I said, yeah, you would. And yes, you would be. You'd probably have a right to be angry. I'm angry. But I already argued with my child about this last year. I argued about the same shit last year. And here it is, the same thing. So I don't need to have the same argument again. I don't. Because you've grown. So you're making the choices that you want to make. I can't blame anybody else. I'm just got to blame your ass. But as an adult, you make the choices you make. You deal with the consequences you deal with. It's like I told her. He said, "Well, maybe I see you just at least to give you a gift." I'm like, I didn't buy you shit. I don't really want a gift. I don't. I don't give a shit about a gift. I do give a shit about seeing my child. If my child doesn't have enough time to see her father, I don't need to see my child, and I don't need a fucking gift. Because I'm not interested in that shit. My interest is in quality, not a rush job. Hey, good to see you. And I'm out. No, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck about that shit. All that material shit can burn the fuck up. How you treat me, how you prioritize me matters. And if every goofy two-legged bitch shows up thinking that your time needs to be there and you feel obligated to spend time with them, you're prioritizing them over your father, the person that you came from. You got shit to talk about. Like I said, I don't need a gift. I do need respect. I don't need a gift. But I can understand how something like that and that feeling of sadness and loneliness that your own child can't find time to see you because everybody else is more important than you. Yeah, that could be some shit that I have a dude swinging from the fucking rafters. Because what are you saying to him? What are you actually saying to him? Look, man, my father didn't raise me one day. Not one day. I will still call my father and tell him Merry Christmas. I will still try to see him if I can. Even with no gift. Because that's my father. You only get one, even if it's your stepdaddy. You only got one father. Just like you only got one mama, even if they lesbians. So the amount of respect that you show those two people that took to create us is vitally important. And if you can overly compensate one and totally under appreciate the other one, you fucked up. But that's okay. You'll be there one day too. That's the parent's curse. You'll be there one day too. And then maybe you'll understand how it feels. Because mind you, she's had her father her whole fucking life. I shouldn't come, like I said, I shouldn't come second to anybody except in maybe her mama. Everybody else should come after me, not before. And I don't give a fuck how long it's been since you've seen them. Like I told her in the text message, I said, you know what? They lived the whole year without your light in their life. They did. They went on with their whole lives not seeing you and not really stressing about it. But your father did. So yeah, like Famous Davis is saying, unforgivable. Yeah, it is unforgivable. But I'm not going in on her about that shit. I'm not. Why? The fucking point. I ain't trying to be stressed, and I'm not trying to argue with her ass the day before Christmas Eve either. What the fuck ever, dude. I'll just pretend like your ass was still somewhere else. But that shit, that kind of shit, after enough years, even if it's just the first year this shit has happened, and a dude been there the whole time raising your ass and shit like that, which I have, that is crushing. That is soul crushing shit to a man. Because we only open, as men, we only open ourselves up so much to so many people. Wives, children are those ones that got that lock in there. And when you spend your effort valuing that relationship, valuing that time and all the rest of that shit, and then the motherfucker get older and can't show that same value back, it's hurtful. It's very hurtful. But men are supposed to just chump it up and deal with it. And for the most part, we do. You know what happens with the ones who don't? That ends up being part of their fucking suicide letter. Shit they couldn't reconcile. How they felt. Unappreciated. Unloved. Unrespected. No matter how much they did. Think about that letter that dude at Disneyland wrote, who was the principal and all that other shit. Think about all the people and the kids and stuff like that he helped. What was he writing about in his fucking suicide letter? Bunch of disrespectful shit done to him to ruin his fucking life. That made him seem like he wasted his fucking time living it. So that's one. That's one. The childhood shit. And you guys don't have to like this message, but drop a like on the stream. I'll keep it short because I almost forgot about doing this shit because I was sitting on the phone having a good conversation and playing an old school video game that I found on sale. So I was getting into some R-Type and eating my cold pizza and drinking out of my big ass cup, and I was enjoying myself. And then I remembered I was supposed to do this damn stream. So I still wanted to give you a stream. I'll be trying to shirk y'all on that. So at the very least, you can drop a like on this page. Now, what's the second one? Relationships, marriage, dissolution of a marriage, dissolution of a relationship. Excuse me. For me, this is the primary reason a lot of guys off themselves. Love of a woman, right? Love of a woman or loss of love with a woman. A woman changing like the ties and deciding, nah, your dick is too crooked. Nah, your homeboy was a little bit better at kissing when she used to fuck around with him. You know what? I saw his check. I saw yours. Take home a little bit more money than you. I'm out. Or maybe she discovered she wanted to be a lesbian. I don't fucking know. Whatever it fucking is, right? Love of a woman for a man is, like I've told you guys before, distracting at best. Distracting at best. At worst, it can be a man's total downfall and his breaking point for losing her. What up, Aaron? AP in the building. And thank you to Aria Famous Davis for dropping the like. And Famous Davis, I am not on YouTube. I'm on StreamYard, so I cannot mod up anybody. But you said something in the chat. I'll get to it. I usually don't mod people who ask for it. I just mod them, and then they know when they show up. I don't have that kind of trolls here, so you safe. Nobody's going to fucking snipe your ass. I don't have that kind of crowd. What up, King? King Parish of the Beano Nation in the building. Now, it's been said that the right woman can make you, the wrong one can break you. Given the number of men that end up finding their deaths behind some woman, it's a lot of the wrong ones out there. Because they ain't all picking the same chick. Now, why does this happen? Well, if you've grown up on the idea that the female in your life is supposed to be the end all and be all to your existence, then it's not hard to understand why, if the end all be all to your existence decides to leave, and you don't know who you are after that. You don't know what you are after that. You, the end all has ended, which means you have no longer have an existence, right? Ain't that hard to figure out? Now, where do these ideals come from? Romantic notions, usually fed to you by other women. Who taught you how to be romantic? Was it your pops? I bet it wasn't. I can bet money it wasn't. Or was it your mom telling you what women really like and sent you out into the world with a head full of Harlequin romance shit, dealing with women that don't like that shit at all? Look at you like a simp, a whole super simp. S on your chest and the blue simp shoes on. Cape just flapping. Waiting to see if you about something and going over the actuarial tables to see what your earning potential is and if it's worth fucking with you for a little while. How profitable it could be. Now, if you are that type of person and you've gone out into the world like that and you find you a good woman who's with you for a while and you actually achieve some success or whatnot, some more accolades for her for being there. Eventually, her savings bond will mature, and she will find the point at which she thinks the elevator has petered out and hit his peak, and she'll want to get out. Now, when she does that, you will be faced with the dilemma of what you do after that and how you let that happen. Now, emotionally, you will not want that shit to happen. It's like taking drugs. Nobody wants to hide or stop, no matter what bullshit was going on that you had to do to get it. How many dicks you had to suck, how many johns had to let you go straight up the culo. It don't matter. You still want that high to continue. Now, when you say that and you tell this person, you do that romantic thing is you be honest, you be full, and you express your heart and your deepest desires to this person. And that woman looks you right in the face and says, that shit doesn't matter. No, I'm out. You will be mentally and emotionally crushed. This is a dangerous place for a man to be in. Men need purpose. We need purpose. We need direction and we need purpose. Period. It doesn't matter for what it is. We do need a purpose. Now, maybe your purpose is going to work so you can make the money to buy that big screen TV so you can go to the football game and wear your jerseys with your friends and drink beer and have a good time, possibly getting on camera. Maybe that's your purpose. Okay. Maybe your purpose is to be a great entertainer and spread some joy into the world for the love that you have of something that you're into. Maybe it's just being a good husband, a good provider, providing a good life for this woman. And as long as she's there, everything is awesome. But here's the thing. What happens if you have a houseboat and the tide goes out? Is your boat still floating? Or have you just run the fuck aground? That's what happens when you make the female your sole purpose. You can be left run aground, stuck, like a whole castaway. You'll be sitting there like fucking Tom Hanks talking to a volleyball to want some friendship and some companionship. Because that is, in fact, what you feel you have lost. You've lost the ability to have a companion, that you are, in fact, alone, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But if you've taken all the time to learn how to live with somebody else, to rely on somebody else, to make this other person a part of your life, and they decide after a while, I'm good. In the moment, you don't have that learning time to get back to being that person you were before you learn how to live with them. You don't have it. Like a drug addict, you're going to fight, you're going to cry, you're going to be enraged on trying to bring back that thing that made everything work. And the more you want that shit back, the more that motherfucker is not coming back. The more it cements it in their head that they should never come back. That's the downside of it. Now, the part that will really fuck you up is sitting there living in that place where you're wondering, who the fuck am I and what am I going to do? She's gone. She was my whole world. She fucking my best friend. How could they do that to me? All these years. Well, how they can do that to you is that they never actually liked your ass. Or, it's part two, and I'll thank Baby from Cash Money for this, and David Goggins, because the two of them together, between that book and then the Baby clip, put some things together for me. So the or is, they were always envious of you anyway. They didn't like you having all this together. Having a wife, having a job, having a home, having a family. They didn't like all that shit. They didn't like you having that shit. Don't matter. They didn't like seeing your cheesy ass fucking grin every day. They didn't like smelling home cooked food. Excuse me. Cooking in your house when they dropped you off. They didn't like seeing your wife walking around looking sexy and shit and them wanting to fuck her. They didn't like that shit. And because they didn't like it, they set about to undermine that shit any way that they could. To take it from you. To be you, in a sense. That's envy. And that's why I thank Baby for making that clear. Which is what he said on Instagram, was that haters are one thing, but haters are far away. A hater is like a racist that see you from a distance and yell nigger. They way over there. They ain't doing shit. They can't do shit to you but hurl insults. That's a hater. An envious motherfucker is the person standing right next to you, hoping you wreck your brand new car that you just bought, hoping that your wife step out on you because she too pretty and y'all look like too good of a fucking couple. Or it's your wife's friend that want to try to throw you some pussy so she can tell your wife that y'all relationship ain't about shit because she a single hoe who just went through her 30th dick. Not this week. Envy is that motherfucker at your job that can't seem to fix their face straight when you walk by. But every time you see them, they got a little bit more of the shit that you got too. Trying to straighten their posture up a little bit when they next to you. Trying to do things just like you a little bit. But still sneering at you. That's that envy. That's what'll creep into your relationship and break it up. Because everybody will help. Even the people you don't think would. Now, when all of that happens, you will be left emotionally and mentally hollowed the fuck out. You ever seen a person live when you yank their chest out, their heart out their chest? Not for fucking long. That emotional anguish is not what men are trained to deal with. We are not. Men are not trained to deal with emotional anguish like that at all. You know why? Because that's the purview of women. Men are trained to deal with physical anguish, physical pain, maybe some psychological pain, not emotional. Emotional is what you learn over time from trial and motherfucking error. Often. That's where you learn it. That's where you look to find the resilience. Because we already know not a lot of us go to therapy. So if you ain't even dealt with the shit from your childhood and you out here as an adult having adult relationships and the shit don't work, oh, you pretty fucked up. That's why I grade on the curve. Everybody's fucked up. Everybody. Nobody is escaping this bitch clean. I don't give a fuck what you think. Everybody's crazy. And everybody's fucked up in a way. Now, that emotional torment will affect the way you think. Because your heart and your head are kind of tied together. And if the heart can't have what it wants, it will attack your brain. And feed you every scenario of why you can't have what it wants. And how it's your fault for all of it. And how none of this would have happened if you weren't there. And that it would be just better for everyone involved. They could have what they want and be happy if your ass wasn't there. Because all your heart wants to do is crawl into a fucking hole and die. And it starts convincing the mind of that shit too. Once the mind is convinced, it's over for the body. It is over for the body, son. It's done. That's what leads dudes who are in happy relationships to all of a sudden end up swinging or jumping off of something. It's usually the relationship. Primary reason for me. relationship failure. We don't know how to deal with that, which in some ways seems kind of stupid. Look, man, there is no relationship you get into that doesn't end. They all end. All end. I had to come to this concept when I was married and understanding that everything is a relationship. How you deal with your parents is a relationship. How you deal with your kids is a relationship. How you deal with your coworkers is another relationship. How you deal with your friends is another relationship. How you deal with the barber who cuts your hair every 2 weeks is a relationship. Your gardener who cuts your grass, that's a relationship. Place where you get your fucking gas. All of these encounters that you routinely have with people is some kind of relationship, especially if you see the people more than once. It is now in a relationship. Now, not all of them are romantic relationships. They're not. But they're still relationships. They still require a piece of you to be engaged when dealing with that person. The only difference between those and romantic relationships is romantic relationships have the added benefit of more of your heart being involved, more of your mind being involved. And it requires a bit more of you on the inside than just your transactional relationships with your gardener, your gas station attendant, your barber, and shit like that. You got a little bit more invested in the romantic relationship because that is the key to your happiness, right? So if you can't have the key to your happiness or your happiness, then what do you have? A loss of options, a loss of purpose, and a skewed reasoning on why you should take the next step and find another purpose, which is to self-delete. I've been there. I don't say that because I'm looking for fucking applause for it, but I've been there. I've grown up being depressed. I've been massively depressed. Fucking 2008 when I was completely out of work. When the trade was shit, I couldn't get a job for nothing. Unemployment had ran out. I'm sitting in my fucking garage every day at my desk and shit. Nobody talking to me, even though I'm in a house full of people. Nobody talking to me. Nobody dealing with me. Nobody asking how I was doing, what was going on with me, trying to snap me out of it. None of that shit. I'm just there stewing. I was depressed. I was. Severely. Now, shit, about 5 years or so later, after I start picking myself back up again, and then the whole relationship dissolved, the whole family situation dissolved. There was a time I was back in that garage thinking, what the fuck am I doing here? Why am I living? That was a question. Why was it a question? Because I lost purpose. Because I had made my purpose this family and this woman. I have a purpose for me. And when that woman left and the family left or dissolved with her, or the ideal of the family dissolved with her, I didn't have a purpose. And a man with no purpose is dangerous. Because you have to have something. Those are the kind of thoughts, those are the kind of situations that lead men to jumping off shit, hanging from shit, playing the old Russian roulette. That's what leads men to doing that shit, because they don't know how to deal with that kind of thing. You're not trained to deal with that kind of shit. And worse off, even if you wanted to help, most people don't give a fuck and won't, because they feel it's your right to, it is your duty to be suffering. It's not. You're entitled to the same kind of help everybody else get. Some bitch sitting on TV crying about, who did I see recently? Brittany Renner on Instagram crying about all the men that used her body, and I just let these men use me. Shut your fucking gullet up. Bitch, you did that shit because you wanted to. You was trying to get on and you like smiling with your ass out for cameras. Them dudes fucked you because you let them. However they used your body, you allowed it. I don't want to hear this shit. I'm not queuing up the violin for you. Fuck you. You did this all yourself. You was grown, right? Ain't nobody raped you. They didn't kidnap you. Wasn't no trafficking situation. None of that shit, right? These are all choices you made. Well, fucking suck it up and shut up. Like you was doing before. I don't want to hear that shit. But as a man, if you came out and said that same shit, motherfuckers would have told you just what I just was saying to her. Hey, shut the fuck up. These women used me and abused me, took advantage of me, took all my money and my self-respect. Even dudes will be looking at this weak bitch. And that's sad. That's what makes people want to go self-delete, because they realize nobody actually cares about them. As an individual, nobody really cares about them. And it's easy to believe that when you are in the well. It's easy to believe that. When you down as low as you can go emotionally and stuff like that, it's easy to believe that shit. Because all you'll start doing is pulling the sand in on top of you. Well, nobody cares. I might as well just hide my head and get out of their way and let them do what they're going to do. Nobody teaches men about that shit. Nobody teaches men to deal with that shit. That yes, you feel bad, this too will pass. You know what? She's a trifling bitch for running off with your friend. And that wasn't your friend. You might as well stop using that lexicon when you're talking about this motherfucker. You might as well pick whatever disrespectful word that you want to out of the dictionary and use it. Make up one if you need to. But that's what you need to be calling these motherfuckers. And understanding she wasn't probably ever about shit. You might have had some good times, but that's all you had. Some good times. Chalk it up on the board and move the fuck on. That's what make people do it. Just throw that on the whole floor. I did. Miss my garbage can entirely. What's my garbage can doing way over there? Let's do this soggy ass tea bag right on the floor. That about a bitch. I was wondering, I didn't hear it hit the bag. Like, why didn't I hear that hit the bag? Because it didn't. It hit the floor. What up, Donnie Matt? PMDM. So what's the third one? The third one is finances and money. This is the reason, especially around the holiday seasons, people can really, or guys can really get into that mode where they just think it's going to be all over for them. It might as well be all over for them. I can tell you personally, um, there are some choice bad memories I have of being around Christmas time. And one of them is being broke during Christmas time. Now, there's a funny thing, and I was going over this with somebody else, that happens in construction. At least it happened in construction out here. About this time of year, about October, November, construction companies will start paring down their crews, right? It's third quarter, right? Fiscal quarter. And they're trying to save money and get to the new year, right? And what they'll do is November, they'll lay off people. They'll lay people off in November before Thanksgiving. Not right before, but early November into October, yeah, your ass will be gone. Now, what happens is, given the area, and I'm just using California out here for an example because that's my example, right? November and December is cold, it's rainy. It's not a lot of work happening, right? People was kind of, hunkering it down for a couple months till we get to some better weather. Now, if you're in one of those trades that are overly dependent on good weather, you are now out of work, sir. You better have a side hustle or something to keep money coming in. Now, why this sucks is, as we know, in the world, most people live, or at least most Americans, as far as I know, live check to check. Even if you get paid weekly as a construction worker, you're probably check to check. Because at that rate of pay, you have bills to match it. That's why Biggie was talking about more money, more problems. If you make $1 million, guess what? You got $2 million problems. You make $100 million, you got $30 million problems or $100 million problems. That's just how the shit works. Okay? If you got $500 every 2 weeks, nigga, you got $100 problems all day long. You need 1,000. We need 3. And you like, shit, I just got 5. Well, we need 3. Now, yeah, Donnie Max, the HVAC engineer. Yeah, I'm sure you do. Seasons, right? Now, money crunches nobody likes. But when you're out of work in November and maybe you have some money coming from unemployment or something like that for the Thanksgiving, okay, you might have enough to throw some food on the table, right? But by December, you're looking fucked. And the last thing you want to be is a man with a family during the holiday season broke. It's the last thing you want to be. And I'll tell you why. Not because it's an unnatural situation. People go broke all the fucking time. It happens. But as a man, as a black man, nigga, you are broken. Why are you here? Is what people look at you like. Why are you here? You have nothing of value to offer. You ain't got no money. You can't buy no Christmas gifts. You don't want to be that dude. You don't want to be that dude during the Christmas season and going to no family functions and no parties or shit like that. People will look at you fucked up like you're a defective alien. Like, yeah, you just came in a spaceship, nigga, but your spaceship was busted. Why'd you even come here? That's how they treat you. You are a broken tool. A wooden spoon with a crack down the middle. Like, nigga, what are we going? We can't mix shit with this. That's how they look at you. So understand, as a black man, a lot of times your worth is only in two things: your dick and your pocket. If you ain't got no dick, you better have some pockets. And if your pockets is empty, you better have some dick. If neither one is hitting on shit, you ain't hitting on shit. And nobody gives a shit about you either. Now, while a homeless man may know that his situation is completely fucked up because he deals with it every day, a man who was on top of his game going to the position where he is not on the top of his game and seeing how people really think about his ass all of a sudden when he ain't had the money he used to, can be demoralizing and very spiritually breaking, because you realize the world that was fabricated around you, that you built, that you really cared about the people there and would never, do anything to them. They never really cared. They only cared as long as they could benefit from your ass. And once the benefit is gone, you're gone. You cease to be relevant. Now, this could be a bad thing, because nobody wants to believe that the people that have been surrounding them their whole life was only there because they made good money. But given the Christmas season, if you go back to Trading Places, what was Dan Aykroyd's problem? What was his name? Was it Carlton? I forgot what his fucking name was. What was his problem when he went to the club and tried to talk to his friends about how he was framed and everything else and was broke and shit? What did you find out? The Todd moved on his chick, and his chick moved on the Todd because he didn't have money no more. And yes, they said some slanderous shit about him, but they was more than willing to believe that shit and roll with it, and excommunicated him from his friend group that he had had for years. Not even a fucking day. He was done. Now you put that in the real world, and I can tell you, you don't want to be the broke black man during Christmas, not buying no Christmas gifts. I tell you that shit from experience. That sucks. It is emotionally demoralizing. You feel like less than a person. You feel like less than a man, like a complete fucking failure. And you know what? Nobody's going to sway you otherwise about it either. They're going to let you know, yeah, you ain't about shit right now. Because the funny thing that happens in a situation like that, this is the time everybody want to do something. Oh, let's go here. Let's go do this thing. Man, I ain't got no fucking money for that. Oh, don't worry, they'll take care. No, man, what? No. They're going to make a show of the shit that you can't do none of this shit now. Then you get to put your name with somebody else's on the gifts. Oh, this is from both of us. When you know, no, it's from this bitch, not you. It's demoralizing. That's the kind of alienation. The alienation does come with that. That comes from that. You will be alienated, and you will feel alone, and you will feel like a fucking failure. Nobody will dissuade you from believing that shit, but everybody will go on with their life like, you fucked up. And it don't matter how it happens. It doesn't. You could have just got fired, found out your boss was skimming the till or something like that. He fired your ass to keep you from telling anybody. Don't matter. After a point, you still a broke nigga, and folks don't like that shit. No use for broke niggas. Now, there was a time in this country where white dudes would throw themselves out of windows when they lost a shitload of money. Why? Because that money was tied into their sense of self. They had no value if they didn't have the money. And if the money was gone, who needed them? Where was their value? Gone with the money. There's a line I always remember from the Goody Mob, and CeeLo Green said it. And one of the things he said is like, he kind of likes being Poe. At least he know what his friends is there for. Right? There is something that's learned in being broke. You know who really is down with you and who really, when they don't think you got a dime to your fucking name or you just broke or struggling. You know who really down with you and what they really think about you. Because they don't waste no time in fucking telling you. You get a lot less calls to go hang out and go to this and go do that when motherfuckers know you broke. And it's not because they want to carry you or cover you. No, because they ain't interested in hanging out with your bitch ass. Because you're broke. Your value on. Because in this society, this country, especially as a black man, you better have some money. And once you have some money, it better be the right amount of money for anybody to think about giving you any other interests into any other doors. And we judge each other harder than anybody else about the fact that if you have it or you don't. Plain and simple. Now, during the holiday season, that is amplified by how much you cannot do, how much you cannot show the people around you that you love some kind of appreciation, some kind of gift. You can't be a part of what's going on. It's all alienating, which makes you depressed and alone at the wrong fucking time of the year. When all that happiness that everybody else is having and doing, oh, it's just so wonderful. Well, they having a good time and my life is miserable right now. Maybe it'd be better if I wasn't here so they can keep enjoying themselves. It seems like it doesn't matter that I'm here and suffering right now because they still enjoying themselves anyway. So maybe if I wasn't here, they could still continue to enjoy themselves like I wasn't here. That goes into the not mattering part. You don't matter to people. And yes, Donnie Mac, human doings, not a human being. No. You can't be a human. You have to be doing the human thing, which is providing some money to other people so they can provide you with some fucking attention or a little bit of regard, depending on how much money you actually giving out. If you're not, then you're just a selfish motherfucker and figure out a way to take it from your ass. Kind of like Kanye. Understand, people had no vested interest really in seeing you well off and doing well. People like seeing you fucked up. Because like David Goggins was pointing out in his book about haters, some people in your life are not even haters, people in your foxhole. Some people, you got to have the right people in your foxhole. Because some people in your foxhole are only happy if you're doing better, worse than them. only happy if you're doing worse than them. So that means if you were making more money than them at first and then you hit a wall or had some hardship or something like that, and now you ain't making that money, don't think they're going to help your ass. No, they are not. They're going to be comfortable with your ass behind them. And they will silently revel in it. You know how you know? Because they will not be the one reaching out a hand to help your bitch ass. They won't. They'll make some polite overtures, but they ain't trying to help you get back on your feet like that. No, they want your ass there. They hated that you was ahead of them, and they relish in the fact that you behind them now. I think it was, I don't remember the Chinese philosopher, but the phrase was kind of like happiness is seeing your neighbor fall off of his roof. That's how people are. Mr. Donnie Mac, no, they do not ever need to reboot It's a Wonderful Life. They will up royally. Frank Capra did it one time on the good foot. Don't need to touch it. Don't need to. Only thing you need to do to that motherfucker is update the format. I want to. I don't give a shit. I'll watch it in black and white forever. Because what that movie shows is what you will not be thinking of in that moment if you have financial difficulties. Because financial difficulties come with a whole heap of other shit on top of it. Like you're going to go to jail, you're going to be homeless, you're going to be eating cat food, you're going to be sucking dick for tuna fish, you're going to be doing all kind of ills happen to you after you do not have money. All kinds of shit. And a lot of that shit is nothing people want to fucking deal with. Nobody wants to be living on a goddamn street. Not even the people living on the street want to be there. Nobody wants to be scrounging for food, selling off their property and stuff like that just to gain money to keep a roof over their head and have some fucking heat. Nobody wants to be doing that shit. But the lack of money puts all that on you. Even if you miss paychecks for a month, it puts that pressure on you. Because that's all it is. All the rest of that shit is just external pressure to keep your ass doing what the fuck we said to do. That's all it is. And all you're stressing over is the potential of what happens to you if you don't. It's like a kid washing the dishes because he don't want to get his ass beat. You're only doing this shit because you're afraid of taking that ass whooping. And the only reason they have the ass whooping there is so you keep doing what the fuck they want you to do. That's why. That's all. That's why all of your value is tied up in this. Because if you do it all good, you get that pat on the head. The point of this is that you need to think more of yourself. You need to think more of the life that you live. And you need to appreciate the fact that you are living more than you appreciate the fact that everybody else is there. Who likes you, who don't fucking like you. Look, let's be honest. All that shit is transactional at best. If I came on this stream and started cussing out all of y'all, person for person, you would not like my video. You would downvote that bitch. And if I really cared about the likes like that, it would hurt my feelings. And it would lower my sense of self-worth. They hate me on the internet. Who gives a fuck? At this rate, at this point, that shit only matters if there's money attached to it. Because it's not like every time a motherfucker hit the like button, $1 goes in your pocket. No. YouTube just understands that your shit is helping the algorithm a little bit, and how many people in the algorithm actually gave a fuck about what you had to say. They can care to listen, they can care not to. Your value in life has to be something other than the people that you bring into your life. Not saying you don't care, you can't care about your spouse. I'm not saying you can't care about your kids or family, none of that shit. Those relationships are important to help you become who you want to become. But that cannot be your sole reason for living. They cannot. I'm sorry to tell you that shit. They cannot. Your sole reason to live was happening before any of them were in your life. Before you had kids, you had a life. Before you had your spouse, you had a fucking life. Before you got out of your parents' home, you had a fucking life. You've had a life the whole time, longer than the rest of these people. They can enhance your life, but they cannot be your life. Your life is you. And that is not changing. Only thing changes is the cast of characters that come onto the stage, that you allow onto the stage of your life to share some time with you around you. Yeah, we're going to make this a duet, man. Come on up. You too, man, because you can play the bass. Come on, come up here. This is my life with backup by these folks. That's how you have to look at the shit. When you see it like that, situations of this woman left me, I lost all this money, these kids don't appreciate me, all of that stuff kind of falls away. It doesn't have the same sting that it used to. Getting therapy, for one, helps lower that sting, because it can at least get you to understanding why it is a sting for you. Why does it sting for you? Right? Like I just told my friend recently, the only thing things hurting tell you is that it mattered. That's it. It just means it mattered to you. So that means if your spouse left you and it hurt you, it's because it mattered to you. If it doesn't seem to hurt them, it didn't matter to them. You can't convince them to make it matter. They made up their mind. It doesn't. You're the only person carrying that torch, so you might as well just dunk it in the water and say, I'll see you in 4 years. It's over. It's done. Now, we don't want to do that because that's the hard part. That's the unknown. That's the step off into the darkness. But that's exactly what the fuck you have to do. Don't need to be anybody there. You know why? You're supposed to be the Green Lantern. You're supposed to be your own light. Right? Your path, your light. They came onto your stage for a time and jammed out with you. And then they got off this bitch. You still got a show to do. You still have a life to lead. And they just left. Moving on. Now, it may suck to hear that. But look, none of this shit here is permanent. None of it. None of it here is permanent. Nothing is locked in a state of stasis. And I tried to convince my ex-wife of this shit many a fucking time. Just about relationship stuff. Nothing is locked in amber. This is not fucking Jurassic Park. Everything is moving. Everything is changing. Air, breath, age, facial hair, the fucking universe, the cosmos, the stars, everything is moving. Everything. Always. Consistently. There is not a point where everything is standing still and will never move and change from this one position. No, that's not normal. What is normal is for things to come and for things to go. And if you're lucky enough to still be here when things go, you go your way. So I don't agree with self-deletion. You still got other shit to do. So what? I understand a lot of these situations hurt. I understand a lot of these situations are scary as fuck. I understand a lot of them can have some really messed up consequences. True. True on all that, 100. But doesn't mean you can't go through it and survive it. Doesn't mean that shit at all. Because the first thing you can probably ask yourself is, am I the first person to ever go through this? And the answer should resoundingly be, fuck no. You wasn't the first person born on this bitch, and you ain't the last one. And nothing down here that you're dealing with is fucking new. It's just the first time you've dealt with it. Welcome to the party. Now talk to some of these other folks that actually have been through it, instead of thinking you got all the goddamn answers locked in your fucking cerebellum. You don't. Get some fucking therapy first. They'll make a 1 minute decision that costs everybody the rest of their fucking lives. One thing I think about from all these self-deletions this year is a lot of these motherfuckers had kids. A lot of them. And that makes me angry. Why? Because their kids got to deal with this shit. It ain't over for them. It's not. They have to deal with that. They have to get to the same place that daddy did and decide if they're going to go the same way daddy did. And chances are they probably will. Because they don't know why the fuck you did any of this, letter or not. It doesn't make any sense to them. And when they think about it, like Charles says, my brother, my hero, if my father couldn't make it, then I don't have a chance of making it. Superman couldn't do something. Then what fucking chance in hell do I have? That's what happens. That's what happens to the people who are left, the kids that are left afterwards. And that's why I say a lot of times self-deletion is a selfish fucking act. Because you're only thinking about you. In the worst fucking way. No matter what happens, no matter how much money you have, no matter how miserable you feel, losing whoever the fuck you was with, your life is still connected to other people's. And primarily two. Your mother and your father. It's always connected to them. You wouldn't be here without them. And if they didn't give a fuck, You would have been raised with wolves. Barely knows how to speak English. Or wash yourself. Your life is way more important than one person. Your kids grow up and want to be little assholes. It's not your fault. You raised them. If you know that's not what you taught them, they made their choice. Well, that's what adults do. They make fucked up choices. And they get fucked up consequences, don't they? Your kids ain't no different. Your wife want to leave you to go be with your best friend? Let that bitch. It's good that they found each other. Now you know he wasn't about shit and she wasn't either. Good. Now you can write both of them off of your life. You ain't got to deal with none of them again. You lost your job and lost all that money? Good. You probably didn't like that fucking job anyway. Chances are you didn't. Go find something else that you actually want to do now. Go. They'll pay you for it. If you cut some bills you have down, it won't even matter how much they pay you for it. You'll have extra money because you ain't dealing with that trifling ass bitch or them kids. You ain't got to give them no money. So it's all for you now. So that's it. That's, for me, that's why guys around this time usually self-delete. That's why they do it. That's how it happens. And I'm here to tell you, it doesn't have to. That's a choice. All of that shit is transitory, meaning it's in motion somewhere else. That bitch was a stopover. She was a layover, and she flying out somewhere else. Raising your kids was a time in your life, but they're adults. They have to do their part on maintaining relationships now. It's not your fucking job to. That's their job. The job, you should change your jobs every once in a while. Nowadays, you should. So you learn some other shit. Keep sharpening your skills and not getting complacent sitting in the same fucking place that you hate for decades. I'm just saying, there's reasons why people do this shit. I understand some of those reasons, but I also understand that there's other ways to deal with that shit than just that way. So I am going to get off here now. This has been an hour and 30 minutes of me sharing my philosophy on seasonal self-deletion. Like, share, subscribe. Support the stream if you feel so inclined. Hit the like button and subscribe if you like hearing bullshit like this every once in a while and some geek shit. I've been artisanmc. I wish you guys a good Christmas. I am going to pour myself some rum chata, and I'm going to go ahead and fire up my Killing Time stream and go back to playing R-Type because it's fun. I'm on vacation for 3 days, and I'm going to enjoy it. So I wish you do the same. So see you guys next time. Peace.